So let's get down to business.
Hey everybody, welcome to the May 25th edition of Blue Collar Sports Talk.
One more night, you got this. We've had a million.
As usual, here's a little rundown of what we're going to talk about today.
Let's get down to business.
We'll start out with looking at some Husker news.
Give you one more night, you got
NHL hockey is ever so close to starting the Stanley Cup. We'll take a look at some NHL games.
Let's get down to business.
The NBA is also very close to the championship finals. We'll discuss the NBA.
It's been a while since I had your
We're going to discuss a little Major League Baseball.
my heart to it.
We'll have our final thoughts. And now, here's our show. Hey, good morning, everybody. Daryl here. We've got James in his Hawaiian, Nebraska gear.
Yeah, morning.
It's a muggy little pig outside.
She's getting a little sticky out there. It's getting to be that time. We can't get rain, so I guess we might as well get the humidity to dance around.
Yeah, it was 80% humidity when I woke up. It's like 61% now. Of course, we're in Nebraska, so we have to talk weather. I mean, we don't have a beach or mountains, so.
Right.
Speaking of beach, the Husker volleyball team, they're on a little summer trip. So if you follow them on any social media, you're going to see them doing stuff in Brazil. I guess they get to take a trip every 4 years.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's a budget thing, but they're in Brazil right now. And if you happen to follow any of them on social media, I'm sure they'll be sending tons of stuff about Brazil.
And there's a lot of good volleyball in Brazil.
See, that's just it.
It is.
They're playing their military team and they're playing their national team. They're 19 and up and 21 and up national team.
Good.
So
that's some competition right there.
right, it's not just a trip just to have fun, but yeah, it is. They'll bond. They'll come together. They have a bunch of new teammates, and they're going to play just amazing talent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure going to recruit some of that talent.
Why not? While you're there, save the trip, right? Yeah.
One of them, if I remember correctly, didn't we have a Brazilian national on our team for a while who then transferred into Kansas?
I wouldn't even know.
Perfect. Great talk.
Right.
Great story, Daryl. Amazing.
I have to go through the Google archives to look for that one. I follow, I just not that closely follow it because, honestly, it's just hard to find anything on it, on sports medias, anything, unless you Google every single thing.
Right.
It's just not covered as well as obviously other sports.
It truly isn't. Speaking of coverage, the baseball team is covered right now because they're in full swing during the Big Ten tournament, and they snuck a win in yesterday. Rutgers 9-7.
Yeah, and it was take a few runs, give up some crappy runs, take a few runs. So, yeah, nice little battle, way to hang in there and score 9. I love seeing this late in the season. The bats are still awake.
The Huskers that played also, we have 4 Huskers on our team that were honored. The Big Ten announced that, Max Anderson, Bryce Matthews, Gabe Swanson, and Shea Shoneman all received Big Ten honors.
That's huge.
Anderson and Matthews were first team, Swanson and Shoneman were second team and third team honorees respectively. Anderson was one of 2 unanimous first team selections along with Michigan State's Brock Vandenbroek. Also, another Husker getting some accolades. The same Max Anderson, he is a finalist in the Golden Spikes, semifinalist.
Right. Only 25 players.
Yeah.
Entire nation.
The entire nation. And what the Golden Spikes is, the top amateur baseball player in the nation.
Right. Yep.
He's batting .412.
Jeez.
19 doubles, 2 triples, 21 home runs, 69 RBIs, and 49 runs. He's one of 2 that are hitting, at least 400. Dude, that's nuts.
That is. And, before in college baseball, there's a lot of guys that hung around that 400, 390, 400 range. And I don't know if it's more the swing for the fences or just way better pitching these days. It just doesn't seem as happen as often. So batting 400 is, you're 4 out of 10 times you're going to bat, you're getting on base. That's huge. So
he is, let's see. He's a junior and the first Big Ten player with 15 home runs in a conference season with a traditional conference schedule. So he's up for that. He's up for the Dick Hauser Trophy along with teammate Bryce Matthews. We just have some great talented team. We just have some great talented players on this team right now.
Yep. Just need a little bit on the pitching side. I know you recruit what you can, but if we could just get 2 solid starters, man, that'd be huge.
And then tonight, the Huskers take on top-seeded Maryland, 6 p.m. It's in Omaha. So if anybody is looking for something to do on a Thursday, tickets are available, I guess, still.
Yeah, not only top-seeded, they're the only Big Ten team to hang around and stay in the top 25 and finished in the top 25. Rutgers losing to Nebraska. They got Michigan State today. And for you UNO fans, you got North Dakota State at noon. So a lot of these baseball's already started. There's already 3 or 4 games started. K-State, Texas is going on. So it's that time of year where you got a lot of conference battles, a lot of good baseball going on, getting ready for that June in the College World Series.
Yeah, and that's right around the corner.
Fast.
It is right around the corner. And the Big Ten tournament is playing in the same park where the College World Series is at.
Yes.
So they said the staff up there said it's kind of like our warm-up just to get ready for the World Series.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you don't have a chance to pick up tickets, Huskers.com /Big Ten Baseball for the tickets, or you can watch it on Big Ten Network. First pitch is around 6 p.m. And I don't have any new news on the Husker football front, but we're inching every week so much closer to that first game.
Yeah, and it's just mostly portal guy in, portal guy out, talking to this guy and that guy, which will be the way the portal is. It seems like it's never closed, even though it's closed from X day to X day. The main thing is they're still going good, still playing strong, and Rule and them are doing their things. And
I brought it up because I wanted to ask your opinion. Deion Sanders. So it's divided. It's kind of divided nation. People are saying he'll probably do exactly what he did in Jacksonville State.
Oh.
Or he's tearing a team apart and he's not going to do anything because of how many transfers he has coming in. And he's being stupid.
Right. So just yesterday, he was on, I forget who he did an interview with, and he was pretty much dogging the players for going for NIL money, leaving and going for NIL money. And I'm like, really? You're going to be the one that says, hey, don't go to it. Don't transfer to a school that's going to give you more NIL money, knowing that's what you would have done if you were their age. But, yeah, I'm on the boat of you can bring in a lot of talent. You can see it in the pros. Look at A&M last year. They won the portal transfer and the NIL money deals with all the big players. Didn't do nothing with it. Team chemistry is huge, especially in college sports, if they're not all on the same page doing things. Look at Nebraska when Scott Frost was there. I think we had a lot of talent that could have won way more games than 4 or 5 a year. But when you have a team that is half checked in, half checked out, playing for yourself, not for a team, I think Colorado's in for awakening. Eventually, can he do it? I don't know. Like I said, he only did it one time with Jackson State. We don't know if he can build it.
Yeah. Well, how long was he down there? 2-3 years?
Yeah, only a few years.
It reminded me of what Scott Frost did.
100%. Same.
Scott Frost went over, lost every single game his first season, and then
lightning in a bottle.
I'll say he got lucky.
Well, he got some good transfer portal wide receiver, some speed. He got a quarterback with a very strong no-quit attitude. But their defense was still terrible. They were winning games 40-41.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had no defense. And I want to say he was really lucky when he found that quarterback because the quarterback could do a lot with nothing.
Yes. Right. And yeah, that's what I'm getting at. And it was 2 years. So here it is saying with Dion is you're taking him from a place where he coached against a bunch of mediocre coaches. Scott coached against a bunch of mediocre coaches. Then you go to a Power 5 school. We don't know if you can build a program, and we don't know how you do when the coach across from you is probably smarter than you when it comes to X's and O's. I mean, because you're still learning, right?
Scott Frost tried a lot of stuff. And I'm very happy we have Matt Rule. I was happy that they gave Scott a chance. It didn't work out. I think that they gave him 1 year too many. And this is my plug for trying to save the university and the boosters money. Stop putting buyout clauses in there.
Oh, goodness.
How many millions of dollars could you have saved if you didn't do that? And I know it'll never stop because otherwise you're not going to hire anybody.
Fact.
But I wanted to bring up the Dion Colorado thing because he not only ushered out almost the entire previous season's players,
right?
He brought in some of his own. And it reminds me of what Dan Hawkins did with Colorado back in 2006 to 2010. They didn't even let Dan finish the year. And the reason I bring up Dan Hawkins, he had his son as the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And the first year he did okay, but after that, he never had any more success. And they didn't even let him finish that would have been his fourth year.
Yeah.
And then the next coach immediately benched his son. But
who was a big problem with that offense.
Oh,
yeah, it was not very good. Yeah.
It was bad. There was a year he had more interceptions than touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't wish that upon Dion, but you wonder, is your son that good? Is he going to fit in with the Pac-12? Is he going to put up numbers? Are you going to be able to get all these players to gel? Because just last year, Texas A&M tried to throw tons of money at the supposed top recruits, the top transfer recruits, and then they decided we'll just spend our money and not really do anything and make a headache for you.
Yep. Yeah, and they were the talk of the town, A&M, this and that. You know, are they going to replace Alabama top? And then they couldn't even, I think they lost 3 or 4 games. So, I mean, they were competitive in some, but some getting blown out. So, yeah, again, chemistry is huge. And on the Dion and his son thing is Dion coach enough to where he calls his son out, hey, you need to make this throw? Is it always the receiver's fault, always the O-line's fault, always the running back fault? And then where the son doesn't correct anything or the quarterback doesn't correct anything, and now they're in the same groove as Dan and his son was. Yeah, I get it. If you think you're always going to think your son's better than what he is. But if you don't also criticize him and correct his faults like you do everyone else, he's never going to get better. Right. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch, at least through the first 4 or 5 games.
It's tough. I would like to ask Coach Cook what it was like to have his daughter go somewhere else and then come back and play. And because I would want to ask one thing. Did you do that to try to, make her realize that the coach isn't always going to be your friend?
Right.
And to learn that, hey, he's going to try to tell you some things you don't want to hear, and you need to hear that from someone else first and then come back?
Yeah.
Or was it a choice that she went away and went, oh, man, I'm homesick?
Yeah.
And who knows if he would even give us a truthful answer. He would give us the PR polished answer, which is fine.
And I totally agree, because if you're hard on you're just doing it because I'm your child, you just have to be hard on me no. I'm treating you like every other athlete. But if you do send them away, let them get that treatment elsewhere, then they're like, oh, okay, it's not dad, it's coach.
Yeah.
We're on the court. He's going to, you have to treat them all the same or else, yeah.
Well, and honestly, I'm going to agree to disagree a little bit. You can't treat them all the same because nowadays you have to treat them a little bit differently, but I know what you're saying. But you want to be able to get the best out of them, and treating them all the same isn't necessarily going to get the best out of them.
Right.
And the reason I'm going to agree to disagree is because I don't think Coach Cook treats them all the same. I think he treats them kind of individually, and he uses his assistant coaches also to get the best out of them. So can Dion do that? Can Matt Rule do that? And August 31st is the first game against Minnesota. And then right after that, September 9th, in Colorado.
So did you see the tickets thing on the Colorado thing?
I haven't.
So
Did they block us?
they tried to. They were a lot of social media out there telling Colorado fans, don't let Nebraska buy up our tickets, blah, blah, blah. They go on sale and the site gets crashed. It's one of those, again, where too many people are trying to get tickets at one time, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I wanted to get at. So as a Yankees fan, a side note, when I go down to Kansas City, the tickets are on average $25, $50 higher. Same thing when the Red Sox go through or the Cardinals, right? Well, this is what Colorado did also. Normal tickets in a section they were talking about was ran between $85 to $115 for a Nebraska game that's running around $315. In contrast, they said the USC game in that exact same area, which also another big team that comes in, is only $185. So they said Colorado is definitely trying to ticket gouge and get the money. And by the way, and Nebraska's paying it. They're like, hey, you know what?
Of course we will.
So yeah, I love it that there's going to be a sea of red there, like there always is. So yeah, that second game of the season, and of course, everybody that you still have Nebraska fans that wanted Deion. Why didn't we go after him more? You got these others that are happy with Matt Rule and what we're doing. Would you imagine if Deion came in here and just pushed 3/4 of the team away and had them all jump the portal? Would all these people still be in his corner? I don't know. I guess you have to see if they win, right?
In my mind, this is no different than what they did with Tim Tebow when he was brought over to Jacksonville as a tight end. You're going to win financially even if you fail on the schedule.
Oh, jersey sales went nuts.
And he didn't even make the team.
Didn't even.
But they paid him $1 million, and they made that back in jersey sales
easily
before the season ever started.
Right. Fact. Yeah.
It was a great PR stunt.
Right.
So I don't wish Deion to fail. That's not what I'm saying. Also, I don't want us to lose to Deion.
Yeah. I want Colorado to be below 500 team. That's not failing. I'm just saying.
With that being said, it'll be tough for both programs, Nebraska and them, to be at or around 500. They both have their work cut out for them. They're both in tough conferences. I just want us to be more successful.
Fact.
Success. Moving on to the NHL playoffs. Success. Florida clinched the first spot in the NHL finals. Tkachuk had 2 goals last night, and he had the deciding goal with just a little over 4 ticks on the clock to avoid overtime.
And that poor goalie, they had the whole screen. It was a power play, and they were kind of screening him out. And he gets caught up, I'm guessing, looking at his own player push the guy out of the way so he can see. And he's all the way left as Tkachuk's coming across, and he never slides over. So to me, I don't think he ever sees him. I think he's completely blocked, doesn't see him. And I mean, you can't get a more wide open net. I don't know if you got to see the goal. And knocks it in for the game winner. And I'm just like, oh, that poor goalie. I mean,
well, before that one went in, he had like 2 or 3 shots that he blocked.
Yes.
I mean, it was actually mayhem for the final 10 seconds, I'll say.
Yeah.
And great hockey.
Oh, yeah. And so we had picked this. And it's funny because last week I said we might have 1 or 2 series almost over, about over. Dude, all of a sudden in the finals, Eastern and Western basketball and hockey, we're going to get the sweeps. Didn't have any sweeps. And then, bam, here they go left and right where, Lakers are swept. Now the Carolina swept. I had Florida winning the series mainly behind their goalie, and he was amazing in Game 3 and was really good last night in Game 4. Florida offensively does not look very fluent to me, but they are very physical, and they protect the puck. I mean, just watching their power play, there's hardly any setup to where they get clean goals, and then you get a Tkachuk carried around and slap it in from the side. So an 8 seed out of Florida.
Right. That 8 seed.
Man.
That 8 seed, you have no pressure. Not 0.
Yep.
And they're on their 4th goalie, I want to say.
Yep.
So Sergei Bobrovsky is their veteran, but they had, let's see, Alexander Barkov, And oh gosh, I was reading this article before you came in, and now I'm trying to peruse back through it here. But so many things happened. T'Chuk wasn't even on their team previous year. He got brought in, and from the Flames, I want to say. So okay, I was wrong on there. Okay, so Alex Lyon, $10 million a year as their goalie. He helped them get past the Bruins, but then had kind of a meltdown. So then they went to Bobrovsky. So again, it's all about coaching. You have to make those changes. If he would have stuck with this $10 million guy, they probably wouldn't have won. But he brought in the veteran. They tried a couple other things. So tonight, who gets out coached? Do the Stars go home after a sweep?
Yeah, I mean, last week I had picked Dallas to win this. I thought they were going to be a little more, and they were physical. They just couldn't score, as you could see. I mean, the Knights and their goaltending is, wow. They're definitely playing like they did against Edmonton. You know, they were one of the best scoring teams we had, and they took them out. So, yeah, all of us had Dallas picked to win this series, and obviously it did not happen. I think it's another sweep. Vegas clears it out tonight, and I'm just surprised that when you get this far in the playoffs, the top teams, everybody's finding their groove, finding what works and what doesn't work, and the games are, it's 5, 6, 7 game series, and both finals, I think, in hockey are going to end in a sweep, and it just really surprised me, especially with the Panthers 4-1 Boston, 4-1 Toronto, and now the Canes 4-0.
Right.
As an 8 seed.
Yeah.
Talk about clicking at the right time. Holy smokes.
And I think T'Chuk had no one wants to be hurt in the season, but I think with that injury that allowed him to rest, and he's really fresh, and he's a pest to all of the goalies.
Yeah. He's leading in their points, goals, and assists. I mean, he's literally, it's like Peter says, why don't you just find that guy on the floor and don't let him get the puck? Hey, let's play, like basketball. We're going to play the diamond in one. Your job is to stay with Tkachuk. I don't care if you hold his jersey and skate with him. Don't let him get the puck, and when he does, slap it.
Easier said than done.
You're right,
because
100%,
I'm sure their coaches were screaming at him, going, "What the heck are you doing?
How does this guy beat us 3 of the 4 games?"
Right. So last week I waffled back and forth. I'm like, no, I think the Stars get it done, and then finally I went, you know what? No, they don't. I changed my mind because I wrote it down because it was a late scratch, and I said, you know what? No, I'm changing my mind. I'm going with the Knights.
Okay, I didn't write that down.
No, that's all good.
Yep.
Because I initially wrote the Stars. Because I was agreeing with you, and then I went back to my notes. I was like, no, I wrote down the Stars, and then I changed my mind to the Knights.
Okay, yeah.
And so Roger picked the Canes, you picked the Panthers, and I picked the Canes.
Yep.
But the Canes didn't even win anything. The Panthers were never even favored until they were up 3-0, I don't think, by the odds makers.
Who does that sound like?
The Celtics and the Heat.
Right.
I know. It's crazy.
Right.
So tonight, the odds makers, the reason I bring that up, the odds makers, again, have the Stars favored.
Right.
Because they're at home.
And I get they have to win one, right? And it's got to be that mentality where, well, Dallas has had to win one, right? No. Dallas hasn't looked good enough to win, I can't say any, but at least the last couple. Man, Vegas pounces on them, and it's so I can't say it's over, but they just don't make very good comebacks.
It's close. It's 3-4, 2-3, and then the last one in Dallas, 4-0. I mean, obviously that wasn't close, but
yeah, the first 2 games in overtime, late tying up, by Dallas, one late tying up by Knights, but then you go home where you're supposed to take control in 4-0.
Yeah.
So no, I
think they're beat down.
Yeah, I totally think that it's the Knights tonight, and series over.
I don't know. The reason I say that, I counted Boston out last week. I said they're going to get swept, and somehow,
what?
Somehow,
did you see anything that would make you think otherwise?
No, I didn't.
No, exactly.
And even Charles Barkley picked him, so I was like, oh man, it's the Charles Barkley jinx.
Right.
So somehow the Celtics pulled it off. So somehow do the Stars pull it off? Just out of nowhere on the road decide, or not on the road, they're at home.
Right.
Somehow on the stop saying on the road. Come on. Somehow at home, get one after a 4-0 shellacking at home.
I mean, I get it could be, if we're referencing this, because it's very similar to the Celtics Heat, where the Knights have a down game, where they get a couple silly penalties, give up a couple goals. Dallas plays downhill more than have to play uphill. Okay, yeah, Dallas wins 3-1. But again, Knights have to play bad. Boston won because the Heat had an off game. They played really good D. Don't get me wrong. There's numerous block shots. They forced more turnovers than they had. But, they shot really bad ball. I just don't see, if they both play on their level, Dallas and Vegas play on their level, Vegas wins. Now, like I said, if Vegas has an off night, only gets 17, less than 20 shots on goal, okay, Dallas might have a chance to win this, but they need a bad game out of Vegas more than they're going to go out and play them.
And I don't see Eichel having a bad night for Vegas.
Right.
I don't see any of them. I don't see anybody having a bad night.
Mm-mm.
It could happen.
Right.
I mean, and that's why you play.
And if you're a coach, I'm using that Panthers as motivation too. Like, hey, they just swept, going to get some time off. We need to finish this sweep, get the same equal rest, and be ready for that. We can't be having an off game,
7 o'clock, ESPN Plus. Dallas is favored at home. Overs are set at 5.5. So basically 6 goals. I wish you all the luck, Stars. I don't see it happening. Moving on to NBA playoffs.
Let's go back. Let's finish through the Nuggets-Lakers first.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Because, like I said, I didn't think anyone would be swept. And, I mean, this series came and went before we even had another show here.
And you even said that. You said, before we record on next Thursday, these series could be over.
Yeah, right. And they're very close.
Yeah.
Right? I think, if the hockey would have started when basketball did, that would definitely be over.
So the final game, all 5 starters were in double figures for the Nuggets.
Yes. And
LeBron James tried. He had 40 points, 10 rebounds. Davis tried. He had 14 rebounds, 21 points. So 2 of them had double-doubles.
Right. They're 2 big guys. Yep.
Hachimura went 0 for 3 from behind the 3-point line. Overall, they shot 40% from 3 and 46.5 overall. But Denver was just that much better.
Right. At every game. And I know they want to talk about LeBron having that big game in the game 4, but technically he took the 2 games off before because he barely had 20 points in each. He borderline that triple-double, the 10 assists, 10 rebound thing. But he did, when you're the guy and you're playing a team like Denver that...
Excuse me. I'm allergic to the Lakers, I guess.
A lot of us are that. Ooh.
Oh, boy.
But, yeah, so he did. He put up 25 shots, made 15. Well, good, you're at home. But it's that too little, too late. So even if they would have won that game, it'd been, kind of like Boston just waiting for the inevitable. They kept it close. But it just showed, and I know MVP's a regular season thing, that when you look at Jokic play that game, and at the end, when it's a tie game, he gets the ball down on the post, took Davis straight to the hoop, got the go-ahead layup. And oh, by the way, a triple-double, I think, in all 4 games, or 3 of the 4.
Yeah, the last one was 13 assists, 14 rebounds, 30 points.
Yeah. In 45 minutes. I mean, he was on the floor all day, and that's a big guy. He's not Anthony Davis, slender, he's a hefty dude, and to play 45 minutes and be effective at 30 points, yeah, just like I said, just saying how much of a dominant player he is, and that Anthony Davis is just not on his level. I mean, Davis averaged 20 and 14 in the postseason. Good for you. LeBron did his. It's good. But
and completely different players.
Oh, right.
Because Jokic doesn't try to do anything fast. He knows better. And I've heard people make fun of his tempo, but
He's a big guy.
I know it.
Yeah.
And he still runs the court,
Yes.
which is amazing for a 7-footer to run the court. And you think he's in slow motion, yet he goes by you in the lane.
Just like that final shot. Yeah. Anthony Davis, like, good grief. And he's already put it up before he could even get off the ground to block it.
Yeah. So when people make fun of him, I don't get it. Game 3, he didn't have a triple-double. Nikola didn't have a triple-double. He had 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 24 points. But to be 2 off a double-double,
Right.
the dude's amazing.
Yeah. And it's been the whole playoffs. He has, 8 or 9 triple-doubles just this playoff. So, again, doing what he did in the regular season, that's another thing. He didn't have a huge drop-off. You're getting him all day. So, wasn't a surprise. I mean, we picked Denver to win the series. I figured it'd be 1 win by the Lakers at home, but they couldn't get it done. Denver played great D, hit shot after shot that they needed to. Of course, gave the Denver fans something to bite their nails for a little bit on some of those. But, yeah, they finished. They were clearly the best team in the West. They got 0 credit all the way to the finals. And now they're going to sit and wait and see if can Boston win 3 more in a row, or does the Heat go ahead and win this and get some rest?
Does the Heat win this? That's I don't know. I counted the Celtics out last week, and you're like, no, the Celtics have this. So I read a headline. I didn't read the news story, the whole article, but the only team that I can think of that has come back from 3-0 to win the series is the Red Sox in baseball.
Hockey's done it a few times.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So again, I didn't do my research. I just saw the article, and I couldn't think of any. And okay, so hockey's done it. Man, you're in a have to situation. You have all that pressure. Do the Celtics play better under pressure? They can sometimes. Can they get it done? I don't know.
And
they're favored by 8.5 tonight. The odds makers are saying, yeah, the Celtics will get it done.
and
I mean, it's in Boston, but they dropped the first 2 in Boston. The Heat are playing ridiculous team ball. The movement on offense, and they're clamping down on defense, and they did something that I found really interesting. So when they're trying to do the screen,
are you talking Boston or Miami?
Miami.
Okay.
So when Boston's trying to run screens, Miami then peels both guys to follow the ball and double team them. And so instead of doing a switch, they do man, follow your guy until you hit a screen and then double team the ball. And that has really frustrated the Celtics to a point where it held them under 40% shooting a couple times.
Yep.
And
what that does is you're expecting to get the switch to the guy you want.
Right.
Like, okay, hey, Avdia's, whenever he's guarding Horford, you set the pick so Tatum or Brown has one-on-one and you could take him. But, yeah, when they double team, now they're like, oh, crap, my decision is off. But you have to make those adjustments in game, right? Like, okay, hey, at the first half, this is what they were doing. If they continue that in the second half, we need to do A, B, and C. Or is a player's not agreeing with that or buying in because Joe's a new coach and they're not quite sure. But, yeah, you have to adjust for that.
And the line went down. It was 8.5 this morning at 8 a.m., and now after 10, it went down to 8.
Yeah. Just side note, hockey's 4 times teams come back from 3-0.
Really?
Most recently, 2010, the Flyers beat the Bruins. Shocking, the Bruins lose again.
Oh, man.
And then in 2014, Kings beat the Sharks, went down 3-0 in 2014.
Okay. It can be done.
In hockey, it can be.
It's
yeah, and basketball, I think it's like 155 and 0 and 150 and something like that. Yeah, so in the NBA, it's never been done, ever.
The Celtics head coach is a good head coach.
Good young.
The Miami Heat is a great head coach.
Oh.
that could be the deciding factor.
he's 13-0 in elimination games at home, except
Who
two.
is?
Spoelstra. Except twice now, he has 2 losses. And, oh, by the way, both of them are to Boston. Last year. And,
Different coach.
Well, I mean, Spoelstra lost to Boston.
I know, but different coach.
Yeah, but it's still the game clinching. He was still at home, could have finished Boston off because they up 3-2. Boston won that game there. Then he went back home and won in Boston and took the series.
So I'm glad you brought that up because Ime was a completely different coach. He was exactly.
Yeah,
he was focused on defense, and Joe is an offensive-minded coach. Like, yeah, we'll clamp down, but we're going to focus on running and shooting.
Yep.
And in the playoffs, I feel, I could be wrong, that's why I'm not a head coach probably, I feel that you need to clamp down on defense, and since you've played offense all year long, it'll come. You need to get that defense. And his focus switched game 4.
Yeah. 8 blocks, 8 steals.
All the turnovers, all the points and all the turnovers. Because even Spoelstra mentioned that. The little sideline reporter interview thing, and they asked him, hey, what's going wrong? He's like, oh, all the turnovers and all the points they get off turnovers. It's sloppy.
Yeah, 16 turnovers they forced. Finally getting them well over that double digits mark, and Boston only did it 10 times. So, yeah, we had seen this, like you said, last year. This team played defense, get in the mindset of take the ball away, and they only scored 116, so it's not like they put up 125 points. But, yeah, their defense, I think, was huge. 8 blocks, 8 steals, that's huge.
That was the first game this entire season that they won and held Miami under 100.
Yeah.
So the first game that they held Miami under 100, well, they lost.
Because Miami.
Well, actually, I take that back. No, they didn't. I looked at that wrong. That was the previous season or series against New York Knicks. Okay, my bad.
Okay.
So that was the first game that they held Miami under 100. So their defense was amazing. They did a great job on doing that. So I would like to see more defense on tonight's game. I don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, when you watch film, if you look at it, and when you're talking about the screen, that's what Boston was doing different, was they were letting White fight through the screen and chase over the top instead of switching. And I think that's what threw Miami off. They were expecting trying to get that mismatch that they wanted, and instead it wasn't happening. The dribbler would come free. The other guy would stay with the screener, and White would just chase through. Brogdon would chase through. And it obviously, they wanted to switch it because Boston's notorious, switches everything. A nice little wrinkle for Joe. Put that in there and says, okay, hey, let's try. I mean, what do we got to lose?
Right.
Let's try this. So
one of the main reasons that I thought the Celtics were going to just blow this entire series was how the whole team acted after and during the last 2 minutes of the Philadelphia 76ers last game. And it was all about Jason Tatum. He got his 50 points, and he was like throwing up hand signs for 50 plus. He got the record. But what he missed, and you could tell that his teammates were noticeably upset with him, Jaylen Brown cut through the lane wide open because they were double teaming Tatum. Tatum selfishly took a shot, and Brown is just like, really?
right.
He gets the inbound. He's the inbounder on the next possession, and make sure he doesn't give it to Jason Tatum. He gives it, I think, to Derek White maybe, but Derek White then gives it to Tatum. And Brown is then noticeably upset that happened. He's just like, no one else is on this team?
Right.
So I feel that animosity carried over into the Miami Heat series.
Yep.
And somehow this last game, they all got over it. Can they get over it again?
But my only thing with that is, why would it carry for so long? I get the first game. You're right. Yeah, first game. All right, hey, we're going to, as you guys can see, we have to play as a team.
First game, yeah. But again, yeah.
Yeah, why did it carry over 2 more games?
I think Spoelstra had a way better game plan.
And, we point the finger at, Tatum Brown's got to do their thing. And for the most part, they have. The other guys have not. Horford's, I can't say been no-show, but he's barely been, especially time the first 3 losses. Horford hardly there. Brogdon's put in some of his, but White and Smart, where they at? Robert Williams tries. They just stopped giving him the ball.
The one who's disappointing me the most, as you mentioned, at Brogdon.
Yeah. He's hit the double-digit marks more times than White and Smart. But, again, it's not, I don't know, say it's garbage time or whatever. It's when he rotates in. But Robert Williams, if we could just get him the ball on those little lobs inside, little dinks and dunks, let him get 10 or 14 and make them
why did they get away from
honor
it?
the inside. Right. If it's working, keep going. If you run that play 4 times in a row and you get 4 dunks, run it 5.
So game 1, Miami shot 50% on both sides, overall and from 3-point.
Yeah.
The Celtics were 50, almost 52, and then 34.5. So you're not going to win that game. 123, 116. It was close. And then you have game 2, 111, 105. And again, the Celtics shot 28% from 3.
Yes.
And almost 47. And the Heat didn't even have to shoot 46%. They shot 45 and 34, and they beat them at home.
Right. And there's a close one. That's my biggest thing. You hear me say it when we talk at work is I get, you're going to have bad shoot nights here and there, but you cannot have 2 nights in a row at home. You scored 102 and you scored 105. Seriously? At home? Yeah. You don't know where your spots are on the floor. You're not comfortable shooting at those nets that you've been doing it all year. Oh, by the way, all through the playoffs. And I'm not saying Miami doesn't play good defense, but there's a lot of open shots that we saw, even in the replays, you can count them. And dude, you have to make that shot. You have to make that layup. And they didn't. It was terrible.
The game 2 stat that just glares out at me, Robert Williams III had 23 minutes. And he was 100%, 5 for 5. So had you kept him in the game longer, had you fed him more in the middle, he was unstoppable.
Yeah, probably would have won the game.
I don't know if they would have, but when you're shooting 100% and you only are in the game 23 minutes,
right?
That's on the coach.
Yep, fact.
So the other thing that I wanted to point out is on their win, Joe begrudgingly called a timeout. And I don't know if his assistants were yelling at him like, dude, you got to call a timeout. And then it clicked. All of a sudden, Tatum's shooting threes, making every single one of them, and they win.
That 18-0 run.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
So game 3, okay, Williams was in there, where is he at? 13 minutes. 13 minutes. Why? We've had that talk numerous times. How is he defensively? You need to have him in there just to protect the rim because, oh, by the way, Miami loves to go to the rim. But also the other one. Now okay. So yeah, the 13 minutes is crazy, but this one's nuts. Malcolm Brogdon, 0 points. 0 for 6 overall, 0 for 3 from 3-point. He didn't even drive the lane.
Right. And you're just like, really?
And that game was pitiful. 39.8% overall shooting, 26% from behind the 3-point line. And yet they still scored over 100 points, 102, but it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Okay, so long-winded story. Do the Celtics win tonight? I hate to say it. I say I don't know how they can. They put in so much energy on the previous game that I don't know how they can tonight. I want them to, but honestly, I don't know if they do.
Yeah, so I'll go on this. I hope not to go too long here. Down 3-2 to Philly. They win 2 in a row. But Embiid has obviously not been clutch. He can't make it out of the semis. Harden, we know, struggles mightily in crunch time. And also in Game 7s, as he was a no-show both Game 6 and 7. Embiid, okay, Game 6 was not there. Game 7, Boston wins. Boston goes into this game. Like I said, Miami played not very well. They played good. Boston played good D. I won't take that away. But also, Miami missed a lot of open shots also. They were not on their game. Jimmy Butler, obviously, not on his game. But Boston, as we have seen, besides those 2 games against Philly, oh, by the way, their best players didn't play well. How many times have they put 2-3 games in a row in these playoffs? They couldn't do it against the Atlanta Hawks. They didn't do it against Philly. So now you want me to expect against this Miami Heat team, who's been probably, the best team in the East, obviously, that they're going to do it 3 times? No, I don't. I don't think you can. Jimmy Butler always shows up. Not always. Obviously, the last bad game was bad, but he shows up. I don't see him letting this go another game. He knows the dangers. The longer it goes, the harder it's going to be. Yeah. Boston has a talent. They can play the D. They're young, very quick. They can do a repeat of the last game easily. But I haven't seen them do it this whole playoff. So I'm with you. As much as I want Boston to win this, obviously, I just don't see Miami, not scoring 115, 120 points. Just because I don't know if Boston does it from the defensive end 2 games in a row.
Yeah, I just read this really sad stat. This postseason, the Celtics are 4-5 at home.
Yes, and by the way, Miami last year and this year are 4-1 in Boston. So, yeah, they definitely play really well at Boston because Boston, for some reason, doesn't shoot well at home.
I'm going to say the Celtics win tonight, and then the Heat win it the next game in Miami.
Okay. I'm still saying it's over tonight. Unfortunately, like I said it. They're going to get on the whole, well, I don't have to play defenses. And, it's a young mentality. It's a coaching thing. I don't know. But I just see them concentrate more on offense instead of defense. And next thing you know, it's 125-90 and the game's over.
Okay. Any more thoughts on the NBA before we move on?
A little rumors on the side is I know we still have the finals to play. Denver against one of these 2 teams. Obviously, I'm going to be picking Denver as well-rounded and solid as they played, not only defense, but team ball. Free agency coming around and the little rumors about Kyrie to the Lakers. I find 2 things interesting. One, he'd be going back with LeBron, so that's going to be all the hype.
Potentially, LeBron says he doesn't know.
Right, and to me, he's pulling Aaron Rodgers. Just keep me in the media. Talk about me, please. Keep me relevant.
I think he was just frustrated that he lost.
Fact.
And that's just, I don't see him. Doesn't he still want to play with his kid?
Yeah, he still wants to play another year, I promise. And especially if Kyrie goes there, he's playing another year if they recruit him. Kyrie has been at a few Laker games, sitting front row, making sure he gets put on the camera where people see him. We've talked numerous times how the move to Dallas didn't make sense to us. Obviously, it showed. They didn't win very much with the 2 of them. So I don't think Dallas is the option unless Luka leaves, which I don't think that happens. So, yeah, I expect Kyrie to move on from Dallas. Lakers would be very interesting, especially if you talk money and if you follow. Anthony Davis has technically 1 more year on his contract. They can extend him as 3 years, max deal, blah, blah, blah. I know he has 2 years. For those of you Googling now, the last year is a player opt-out. So after next season, he can opt out. So technically, he's only under contract for 1 more year. So Lakers extend him. They have LeBron. They have Russell. And if they sign Kyrie, they're going to be pushing big-time cap space. So it'll be interesting because Kyrie wants his money.
Plus the draft is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know how many teams are going to trade to try to get Wemby, even though the Spurs are probably going to pick him.
Oh, yeah.
Who's to say that
they
can't
don't trade down?
You just never know.
Right.
So earlier, oh gosh, how many? 5 months ago, Roger was here with us, and I had the question. If you had the chance to put him on your team, would you want Luka on your team? And Roger said no. You said
no.
I said no.
Right.
So then they bring in almost the exact same player in a different body.
Fact.
So you have the two of the same style players. But we've also seen Kyrie with the ability to move the ball around when he was in Cleveland more because he was forced to.
And, I mean, honestly, if we're going to be honest, Kyrie looked better in Dallas than Luka did. And I don't know if it's more in shape or more fluid with the ball. He doesn't mind the ball moving. Luka likes to keep it stagnant. You know, technically Kyrie was the better of the two in Dallas. But yeah, you're right. They're the same player. So, and that's my thing with Boston. When Boston moves on to the offseason, in my opinion, they not blow up the roster. Please, I'm not saying blow up the roster. But they're probably going to have to move on for Al Horford. They need a ball handler like a Kyrie, like a Butler, a Damian Lillard, who can get in the paint, create stuff, and kick out. White, Smart, and Brogdon are great from shooting, set a pick, and open shots. But they're not breaking down a defense where the defense is like, hey, we got to cheat so he can't get a layup like Kyrie, LeBron, Damian, them guys do. And by the way, if you do that, it opens up Tatum and Brown to shoot on the outside. Grant Williams hits shots in the corner. They missed that immensely, in my opinion, of a guy breaking down a defense where the defense has to worry about collapsing. So if the Lakers get in that and Kyrie, it could be something different. But they just don't have sharpshooters anyway.
Do you think the Celtics are like that because they prefer the three rather than driving the lane?
I do, yeah. And that's what hurts them. Because if you watch, okay, tonight, you're off tonight. So tonight when you're watching the game, watch how many times Tatum, Brown, White, and, well, not necessarily Smart so much, you don't do it. When they go through the lane and try to take on two guys, count how many times they lose the ball. Just off their foot, even if they regather it and reset, they lose the ball, misdribble it, or they try to move and I can't, now have to back out and reset. So many times because, just like you said, they don't do it enough to hone that skill. White did it decent last year, got him all the way to the finals. I hardly
for some
see it.
reason, White isn't doing what he did last year.
Right. And when I think one of the things they're missing, and didn't mean to change all the way back to the Celtics series, is a team needs that. Kyrie will bring that to any team, but you also have to remember what else Kyrie brings to the team.
I just saw a headline, Miami Heat starting point guard Gabe Vincent. He's averaging 17.5 points during this Eastern Conference Finals, has been ruled out with a left ankle sprain.
Oh, out. Okay. When I came over, he was questionable. He sprang it late, landed on someone's foot. They were showing the replay this morning before I came over, and he did finish the game, but obviously after taking off the shoe and sleeping, and it probably swelled up him pretty good because it was a pretty good tweak there.
He's been shooting 58% overall in the series and 50% from three-point range.
Yeah.
So now Kyle Lowry's going to come in. You're not losing anything.
Right.
The Heat are so talented.
Yeah. Yep. So, as far as the NBA, that's it. I'd be interested. There's some big-time free agency, see what Boston does. And some of these other teams, like I said, if LeBron sticks around, do they improve that roster? And does Golden State make some, not necessarily, I'm not saying blow up the roster, I don't like the term, but they got to make some adjustments.
There's going to be some huge changes in the offseason.
Suns getting a new coach, so I expect a few changes there. Milwaukee, a new coach, could be some changes coming there. This free agency is going to be very interesting in the NBA this year.
Truly is. So earlier in the week, I'd asked what you wanted to talk about, and you wanted to touch on some Major League Baseball. Let's transition into some MLB baseball. Here we are at the, 55-minute mark? Go ahead.
Okay. Chicks dig the long ball. So right now you have your power hitters, Roger and his Braves, obviously Ronald Osuna, number one in hitting. He's, and dude, you talk about Aaron Judge and his home runs. Osuna's hitting balls over 400 feet. Like, I don't even know if he's hardly swinging the bat. It almost looks like a check swing. Of course, I'm exaggerating. Hit a couple more last night against the Dodgers, ended up beating them. Obviously, Aaron Judge is number two. He has hit like 7 in a row, 7 games now with a home run, and just crushing them. Another one I didn't really have him on my list, but Yordan Alvarez for the Astros has 7 homers, batting over 300. He has been amazing to start off this year, carrying them while Tuve's been out with a finger or something that he broke in the baseball classic. I forget which one it was. Of course, Freddie Freeman, he's going to be there all year long. And then the Rays. Obviously, they started off with a hot streak, and you got Yandy Diaz, again, just hitting homers at 31 years old, still staying relevant. And then you get farther down, you got Nolan Gorman for you Cardinal fans. And again, on the Rays, Randy Arozarena is up there also. So lots of power hitting. I mean, this pitch clock, I think, has benefited hitters a little bit with the pitchers when he gets in those stressful situations, maybe not delivering quite the quality pitch. But it'd be interesting to see. The games are shorter, but I wonder where the runs are at as far as runs per game. Maybe I'll try to look that up and get it for next show, is how much this pitch clock, hitting clock has affected runs per game. Because steals, I mean, good grief. Every game I've watched,
there's a bunch of steals.
People are at least attempting or going, yeah.
Wasn't there a game just the other day that got up to 20?
Yeah, Toronto beat the Rays like 20-1. It was amazing.
So I pulled up the standings, and you mentioned Tampa Bay. They're way up there. And it's interesting that their away record is at 13-10, and the team below them, the Baltimore Orioles, are 17-9 on the road. And the only other team close to them on the road with that record are the Braves.
Right.
And I know it's early in the season, but I always like to see what teams do on the road, because that's going to pay off dividends when you get to the playoffs, or if you get to that far. So as long as both of those, the Orioles and the Braves, keep their away percentage up, just watch out for them.
Yeah, and that AL East is just massive. The last place team has 26 wins. That puts them first in the Central and third in the American West. And that's, by the way, the last place team in the East. You have 3 teams with 30 wins. The only other team in the American League with 30 wins would be the Texas Rangers at 31-18. So the East is amazing right now. New York, my Yankees have moved up to third. They've passed Boston. Toronto's dropped all the way to the back. And by the way, they just put up 20 runs on the first place Rays. So that just tells you how battle-tested the East is. And the National League, you have 2 teams with 30 wins. Atlanta Braves 30-19, and then all the way to Dodgers in the West at 31-20. So a lot of a lot of teams that are close in talent or wins or whatever you want to call it. But then you have the AL East with 3 teams with 30-plus wins.
If you contribute to PETA, turn the sound down for the next couple minutes. It has been a rough month for birds in Major League Baseball. So a couple weeks ago, what was it? Another Arizona Diamondback?
Yeah.
Zach Gallen unintentionally killed a bird while warming up in the outfield before a game.
Yeah.
He threw a curveball that hit a bird.
Right. He didn't even throw a fastball. He threw a breaking ball,
curveball.
And obliterated the bird.
And now in Cleveland, Will Brennan just hit a dinger. He's a rookie outfielder, hit a hard grounder that accidentally, again, killed a bird wandering around on the infield grass. So if you want some interesting highlights that deal with birds getting obliterated,
yeah.
You got Will Brennan, and then you have the pitcher, Zach Gallen. And then in this article, they link it back to Randy Johnson.
Right.
Just exploding a bird with a fastball.
You imagine that talk on first base?
Oh, gosh.
When you're standing there with the first baseman, like, dude, did you see that bird? Yeah, he'd have a chance. Never saw it coming.
And if you watch the video, the Will Brennan puts his hands on his head and like he's noticeably shaken.
Right.
So he must be a huge animal lover. I mean, I don't know if he owns a cockatoo or a blue macaw, but he was just like, "Oh, what did I do? I didn't mean to do that."
Yeah.
So I feel sorry for the guy, because now it's every media source, every social media outlet.
And then you wonder what his buddies did to him in the locker room.
Oh, right.
Little crosses with birds buried.
Yeah, did they give him
boxes?
Get him a pet chicken.
Right. Oh man, yeah. Because
exactly.
you gotta try to take the fun in it. And of course, total accident. You're just ripping the ball to get a base hit. And the poor bird in the wrong place, wrong time type thing.
Total wrong place,
Yeah.
wrong time.
You think the word would be out, the birds would start talking, hey, we need to stay off that pretty little grass when those players are standing there. They got missiles launching everywhere.
They are not talking to each other at all, are they?
You got to get the word out, fellas. Got to get the word out.
So I have a quote here from the Spurs head coach, Greg Popovich. And it's one of the few times that he talks about one player. We would have 2 less championships here if it was not for Manu Ginobili. In my eyes, he's the stud of the world. But if you look at that quote, he's talking about that one player because he did so much for the team. He did so much for the team. And the reason I think that's a huge quote from Popovich is because, yeah, he talks about Ginobili, but if you look at what he did, it wasn't about just Ginobili. It was about setting everybody up.
Right, yes. And he was doing the little things, setting up picks, hustling for a ball out of bounds, throwing it off somebody's legs, diving on the floor. Those little 50-50 balls that you hear that term all the time in the playoffs, that if you get more than 50% of the time, that's 4, 5, 7 more possessions than the other team. So, yeah. And Ginobili was that guy. For me, obviously Tim Duncan's the no-brainer, but Parker was another one. Him and Ginobili meshed so well together, played very similar position, like you would say with Luka and Kyrie, where Ginobili and Parker could intertwine, and it worked.
Right.
Because I think 100% because of Popovich.
And that leads into my next quote from Pop. We believe in people executing their role and caring about the team more than anything individually.
Do you imagine how fast he would yank Tatum out of a game, even though he had sitting on 49? And when he saw like the plays you're talking about with Brown, and like, dude, it's not about you.
Right.
We have bigger goals than you getting 50 in one game.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what, you got a young coach, and that's what we're kind of got right now as Celtic fans. Another new coach, an even younger coach, and trying to reel the players into playing team for each other. That's what Miami does. And I know we're going right back to the NBA, but when you watch Miami play, they don't care who puts up 45 that night as long as someone puts up 45, right?
They don't even care if they get to 45.
No.
The only thing that matters to them is the most points on the scoreboard.
That they're still winning. Right. They'll give up the pass. They'll make the hard look or the hard charge. Yep.
So we're going to move on to final thoughts. And my final thought revolves around the one sport that isn't about team. It's about the one person. So finally, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. have agreed verbally to fight July 29th in Vegas. Now, I stress have agreed verbally. No contracts that I'm aware of yet. They've just verbally agreed, and this is a fight that's been waiting. Both fighters have agreed will earn each 8 figures guaranteed, and this is a Showtime pay-per-view. So unless I'm wrong and there is a contract in place, something always could come up, but
always does.
Man, Spence is 28-0, 22 KOs. Crawford is 39-0, 30 KOs. I can't wait for this fight.
I'm 100% with you. To me, it's like getting a commitment until they sign. It's no big deal. I don't take it. I take it with a grain of salt because they might get change their mind. Yeah, I can't wait till it's signed, done, dealed, and ready to go to where somebody's going to lose a lot of money if they back out. That's where we need to get to that point to make sure that this happens because, if somebody gets their feelings hurt or didn't get what they wanted initially or out of the fight. So, yeah, once this is signed and done, I'm going to be excited.
I can't wait. If you don't know, Terrence Crawford is an Omaha kid.
Yep.
He is 35. I'm trying to find where, if they mention in this article, Spence is 33.
Okay. So they're about right there with each other.
Yeah.
And Bud's great to watch fight. I've only seen a couple of his fights, but he's very entertaining. He gets around the ring.
Spence got a TKO during his last fight against Jordanis Ugas. and that picked up his third welterweight title. And Crawford got a 6-round KO of David Evanson in December. That was his last fight. So, again, I can't wait. I'm guessing you have a Today's in Sports.
I do. For you Royal fans out there, good old third baseman George Brett, today in 1986, got his 2000th hit for his very long, storied career. Huge, still, biggest Royals ever. And this one I did some digging, and it's weird. I mean, sports back then, good grief. The late, great Jesse Owens in 1935, so try to think about back then, he broke 4 world records and tied a 5th in 45 minutes at a Big Ten meet. So he's still in high school, hasn't done his big thing in the Olympics yet, still in high school doing his thing. He did this in 45 minutes, and looking at it, he did a 100-meter dash. That was the one he tied in 9.4 seconds. That tied it. That record stood for over 13 years. Then I think they said in like 10 minutes, he had to get over to the long jump. He only had time to do one jump, and he goes 8.3 meters. And to put that in contrast, they said he would have been 5th or 6th in the 2016 Brazil Olympics. That record held for 25 years.
And he's in high school?
This is when he was in the Big Ten. I'm sorry, college. My bad. Big Ten college. He was in college. Okay. So the Big Ten meet. Then he gets over, and this is where it gets a little, where you talk about the extra records, because he only does 2 more events, but they're counted as 2. So he does a 220-yard dash, because it's in yards. Also consider the 200-meter dash in 20.3 seconds. So they considered it because in the 200 yards, it was a record, and the 200 meters, which is considered elsewhere, same thing. And also, in the same sense of things, was the hurdle, with the 220-yard hurdle and the 200-meter hurdle was the same thing, but because they're measured in yards and meters, they went with the same records of 22.6 seconds. All that, again, was done in 45 minutes. And oh, by the way, before the hurdles, his last thing, he had an injury in his back. And he said right before he was getting ready to go and everything, he said the pain went away like a miracle and he was able to run. Obviously, he said, made it in 22.6 seconds, which is amazing. 45 minutes. You're going to each one of these as he's pretty much as the article I read it. If you want to look this up, Jesse Owens, just put in Jesse Owens 45 minutes, you'll get it. He was pretty much finishing an event, getting a drink of water, and making his way to the next event because it was almost his turn or he was next, or they're lining up to sprint, So if you've ever been to a track meet, it's not like everything's right there. You have to make it over to that event, because they're not all in the same spot. So
45 minutes, he set 5 world records.
Right. In 1935, where those athletes don't have the training and the stuff now. You imagine telling an athlete, hey, I need to do all these events, and it's probably being done in under an hour. They're not going to do it. No, I'll do 2 of them, or I'll do 3. So hats off, Jesse Owens. That was
the
very
greatest
amazing.
45 minutes in sports.
Man, nuts.
That leads me to a Vince Lombardi quote: "The harder you work, the harder it is to surrender." And he also went on to say, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. That's an interesting take.
Yeah, because I guess it has to depend on the mistake.
It truly
right?
does. But also the side of that is him being a coach and teaching on that mistake. Because, hey, I don't care if you made a mistake as long as you're trying 100%. And if you're trying 100%, yeah, you're going to make a mistake. And I want you to realize that this happens when you do this. So let's try this.
Right.
So again, that's a coach never stop coaching.
Yeah, and I totally agree. If you're not putting 110% all the time, all you're doing is hurting the team.
Any other thoughts?
That's all we got.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to Blue Collar Sports Talk.
See ya.
Go watch some sports.